Melissa in Buford is overwhelmed. She received a copy of her home inspection report and is a bit surprised by the number of items, and she wants to know what is the best strategy for making wise decisions about inspection issues. We feel like we want to buy it and we don't want to panic. I will tell you, in a lot of cases, people who are overwhelmed by the home inspection process, when you buy a home, and the average home in Atlanta was built in, let's just call it 1987, so you've got a lot more older inventory than you have newer inventory. And when you're looking to buy a home that was built on average in 1987, there's a lot of things about it that are not up to current code today that probably needed to have been repaired years ago. They weren't safety issues. And so sometimes buyers can be a bit overwhelmed by the number of items. We have what's called a reviewing a home inspection report, which is part of our Sure home buying system, which is exclusive to Gaddis Group at Remax Center, and it gives 7 or 8 different ways to categorize or classify an item on a home inspection report. In other words, it's like a legend on a map. When you get the report, and make sure you get a report that has very clear pictures so you can figure out exactly what is wrong and what needs to be done in order to solve the problem. But here are a few ways I think that you can mark that report. Number one, an item could be a yes, and that's an item that you want the seller to address prior to closing. Plumbing, electrical, things that you don't want to move into the house until they are done. An N is a no. This is something that does not need to be addressed by the seller prior to closing. Sometimes these are just things that would make better sense for you to do. And so some of those things, if they're cosmetically important to you, sometime as a buyer, you want to handle those things later. The next way of marking an item is a C, which would be for a comment. And this is where the home inspector is making a comment or mentioning how often the furnace filter should be replaced, or a note about something working properly. The next item, or the way to categorize, is MI, which means we need more information. So this would be, for example, a suggestion that more information be obtained on the operation of a system in the home, or a clarification on what a particular electrical switch operates. 10 or 15% of the items in a home inspection report are just trying to clarify stuff. The next suggestion, way of categorizing items, would be SP, seller to provide. This would be an example of, the seller to provide a gas key to the fireplace or keys for the window locks. The next way of categorizing would be SD, which is seller to demonstrate, and that's an item that might not have functioned correctly, or there was no way to test it. For example, an outdoor lighting system, a sprinkler system. They might not have been able to get the gas logs to operate. They might not have been able to get one of the burners on the stove top to ignite while they were there, and so you might just want to ask for the seller to demonstrate the appropriate operation of that item prior to closing. There's just 3 more ways of categorizing. The next way of categorizing an item would be a question mark, and that just means when you're looking through it, you don't know if you should ask for it or not. You and your agent should discuss. The final 2 items are A, for an allowance. This is where we would like the seller to provide an allowance in lieu of actually making the repair. And then the last item is B, which is for the buyer to do at a later date. These would be things that were also marked no, and it might be things that you want to remember that you want to take care of after closing. So the ways to categorize: you have a yes, a no, a comment, a more information needed, a seller to provide, or a seller to demonstrate. You have a question mark, which means we need to know more about it. You have an allowance or a buyer to do after closing. And I think if you have those in mind, I think you'll do a better job of negotiating repairs.